Hey guys, my name's Skippy from Geek Hammer Gaming. I'm here to do another faction focus review. We are busting through these and getting ready for 10th edition. I am super pumped for all of this and I cannot wait to play the new edition. I just played a tournament last weekend where I played my Tzeentch demons and I was super happy about it, but man, my psychic phase was a pain in the butt and I cannot wait to not be doing that anymore. But enough about that. Let's talk about something super cool. New faction we're going to be reviewing today. We're going to be talking about the Adeptus Mechanicus, the priesthood of Mars, the Admech, if you will. These are the humans that lived on Mars during the Age of Darkness and kind of went underground and gave up their fleshy, annoying, squishy bodies for cool mechanical cyborg bodies and became robot men. Super cool faction that finally got fully realized a few years ago, and man, the expansions that they've done to them have been great, and I'm such a big fan of them. One day they'll give me my Dark Mech, but for now, I'll have to live vicariously through them. So let's talk about some rules, my guys. Let's talk about their army rule, Doctra Imperatives. These are things you get to pick once per battle round. At the beginning of every battle round, you get to pick one of these two things to be in, and your whole army gets these bonuses. So it's basically a defense and offense thing. So, Protector Imperative. All your ranged weapons by models have the heavy ability. So stand still, get +1 to hit. So super killy guns where if you don't move very fast and get very defensive, you get +1 to hit, which is super important for them. And also, each time a range attack that targets this unit, if this unit is within the deployment zone, worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So -1 AP against you when you're in your deployment zone. I don't know how I feel about the deployment zone part of it, but first turn, that's amazing. Especially if you got some crazy shooting army that's coming in. Let's just stand there and get a bunch of better armor saves, which is very important for this army since they have medium armor across most of the army. So I'm happy about this. I wish you had some way to push that defense out of your deployment zone, but what are you going to do? This thing feels pretty good, and I can't wait to see how they play on the table with it. So, and then the other option is the Conqueror Imperative. Ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit have the Assault ability. So, advance and shoot without penalty. You're going to be rolling on people and shooting up the board at people and shooting at full ballistic skill, which is not as good as it used to be, but we'll get that in a sec. And then each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, if the target of the attack is within your opponent's deployment zone, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So, do you want to go storming the opponent? Do they have a bunch of backfield objective tanks that are trying to shoot you down? Well, guess what? You're going to get all that extra AP and blow them out of the water. Again, opponent's deployment zone's a little rough. Most of your fighting is going to be in no man's land, but this is a great bonus to have to get up the board and get up in their face. And then if you're shooting at things that are backfield shooty stuff, that's great for you. So this army, one set of rules is great for, like, the heavy and the assault is really good when you have a defensive or offensive and getting all the great gun buffs that you need. And then the armor penetration either being less against you or more against them is really good on certain turns when you need it to happen. It's a mixed bag of emotions in this ability, but I do like it overall. I can't wait to see how they actually play on the table because this is so weird for them. I don't know how I feel about it in all honesty. But let's look at their detachment rule, the Rad Cohort. This is a super cool one. So, basically, in Battle Round 1, you have a special rule, and then Battle Round 2 onwards, you have another special rule. So, Battle Round 1, Bombardment. At the start of the first battle round, for each enemy unit within your opponent's deployment zone, your opponent must decide whether they will take cover or stand firm. So the opponent does get to make the choice, but every unit has to decide what they're going to be doing. If the unit takes cover until the end of the battle round, that unit is battle shocked. No stratagems, no objective controlled. Oof. That's a big deal for guys who are like, you do that to them, then they move out onto an objective. They can't have that objective the first turn. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to work, but I like it so far. It seems pretty good. If a unit takes cover until the end of the battle round, they're battle shocked. I just said that. If a unit stands firm, roll 1d6 for that unit. On a 3+, suffer d3 mortal wounds. Ooh. So if you really need to not be battle shocked that first turn, you're taking some casualties. Especially against 1 wound units, that's a big deal. That's a lot of mortal wounds spread across the army. So you have to make some tough decisions in your first battle round, and I like that. They'll make the optimal decision for themselves, and they get to choose for each unit, not everybody. But you get to put the pressure on them and make them make the bad decisions. So, and then for battle round 2 onwards, at the start of the second, third, fourth, or fifth battle rounds, roll a d6 for each enemy unit within your opponent's deployment zone. On 3+, they suffer 1 mortal wound. So that one's a little less good, but it's really great, especially if you have a backfield objective you want them to die off of. If they decide to leave a 10-man unit of Garrots back on their backfield objective, taking like D3 the first battle round and then 1 afterwards, like if you pop some ignore line of sight weapons on that backfield objective, they'll eventually start losing guys, and eventually it'll be enough that they'll just have to take battle shock and they won't be able to hold that objective, which is a big deal for them. Because usually you throw something away in the backfield to be able to hold it, but if they're not holding it, you get the more objectives, which feels really good. So I like this. It's not as flashy as a lot of the other ones, but there's a lot of incidental damage and a lot of incidental AP and a lot of incidental abilities that stack up, which is kind of how AdMech work, where they stack a bunch of stuff on top of them to make themselves better, and I like it overall. So let's talk about some units. We're going to talk about the Skitarii Vanguard. These are your battle line troops, your just line item AdMech. So they have a 6-inch move, toughness 3, 5-up save. Whew, 5-up's rough. 1 wound, 7-up leadership, and objective control 2. So pretty standard for AdMech stack line. I was really hoping for 4-up saves on these guys, but a 5-up is all right. In the world of less AP, they'll be fine. So let's look at their abilities. They have Doctor Imperatives, of course. Rad Saturation, it's aura. When an enemy unit, excluding vehicle units, is within 3 inches of this unit, subtract 1 from the objective control characteristics of that unit. Oh, that's good. Okay, so if they're fighting other troops, they're all of a sudden got to outnumber them. If they're fighting something that's not troops and they're just standing near them, all of a sudden their objective control is 0. Like, that's a big deal. That is so much less control. Like, if you bring them up with another unit, like say Rust Stalkers or the horsey dudes that I can't remember the name of, the Rangers or whatever they are, like if they come up and actually do the damage, and then you bring the Skitarii Vanguard to stand on the objective next to them, all of a sudden it's really hard for them to take the objective as they're losing objective control on the entire unit. They have to wipe everybody out, because if they're just standing there, they're going to take the objective from you, and that feels really AdMech. Like, no, we're just going to stand here and you're just going to be worse for standing near us. So you got to deal with that. And first time we've seen -1 objective controlled on a unit in an aura, like that's a really big deal. I like it a lot. So, and then war gear abilities. They have enhanced data tether. So each time select the bearer's unit as a target of a stratagem on a D6 on a 5+, you get 1 CP. So that's like the comms array rule we've seen in other units like Guardsmen and Votan. So CP regeneration for anybody who has comms, so they get the orders better and they don't waste a CP on some of their stratagems. Love it. And then Omnispecs. Range weapons equipped by the models in this bearer's unit have the ignores cover. This is a big deal because they have decent AP on some of their better guns, but most of their guns have 0 to 1, like their line item guns. So anti-infantry, this is going to be a big deal for that, where they're ignoring cover. So you want to stand in cover? No. How about you just don't get cover on that? I love ignores cover. And they also have a 6-up invuln, so 5-up save, 6-up invuln is not that bad. You're going to be taking these guys in hordes. So the more and more I look at these T3 armies that are like supposed to be mass models armies, I have a feeling you're going to be taking a lot of them, because before they would have more abilities that would stack up that made them better than a lot of rules stacked on these units, but now it's like less rules, but their points are going to have to be less because they're not doing as much. So I think you're going to be taking a lot more of things like your troops, just because you need more bodies, because all your stuff's not going to live on some of these armies that have like 4-up, 5-up armor saves. You know what I mean? So let's look at their weapons. So they have their main weapon is a radium carbine, which is anti-infantry 4+, which is super cool. So wounds of 4 always wound the target, which is super helpful because it is only strength 3. So it is 18 inches, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s. Now this is a big deal. We've seen this a few times already, but a lot of these shooting armies are looking like they're only hitting on 4s, and that's a big deal for a lot of these shooting armies. Like Tau have always been hitting on 4s, but like Votan going down to 4s, the regular Vanguard going down on 4s. Like, I'm hoping a lot of dedicated shooting units will be hitting on 3s, but a lot of these units really have to work for their hits now, and it's not just free. So this is looking like a very melee-centric addition, but even hitting on 4s, if you have enough of these guys, you'll eventually get the damage through. So I just don't know how this edition is going to play, but melee is looking really good. Whereas the guns are looking average. So it's like you're not going to win. Combat's where you're going to win a lot of games, but shooting will still take care of a lot of those chaff units and other things like that that'll be in your way, at least for anti-infantry stuff. So anyway, sorry. 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 3, AP 0, 1 damage, but anti-infantry 4+, and you're ignoring cover if you have the Omni spec. So a decent gun. It's basically going to be really good against infantry because it's going to be the equivalent of strength 4 for most things, or strength 3 like it is now. Or even the cool thing is against tough stuff like Terminators are T5, or even some custodians that we're going to see a little later that are like T6 or 7, which is crazy. You will get wounds on a 4+. So it feels really good to have a defined role of like, this gun is not great unless it's against infantry. Then you're going to drown them in saves that they're going to have to take and ignoring their cover at the same time. Pretty good. Now, they also have a couple other weapons like the Transuronic Arquebus. God, some of these words, I swear. Which is their kind of like sniper rifle looking thing. It's heavy precision, so it's already got heavy built in, even if you don't take the overarching army rule. But it's one shot, hitting on 4, strength 7, -2, D3 damage. So you can, with a few of these, if you hit and get the 6s to wound, you're going to be doing some damage on the characters in certain units, which is kind of cool. I like that that's an option that they have. They have a Plasma Caliver, which is 2 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 7, -2, 1 damage, or you can overcharge it, which makes it hazardous, but it's strength 8, -3, 2 damage. So pretty good. It's a little bit of risk on a 4-up hitting army, but, you know, whatever. Make it happen. The arc rifle. This one is, I kind of like a little bit. It's anti-vehicle 4+, so there's your anti-vehicle weapon for them. Devastating wounds. So you're getting some mortal wounds in on there. If you get enough of these things. And rapid fire 1. So it's 30 inches. So you're getting double shots in 15 inches, which is not very hard to do in this game because guess what? A lot of stuff's going to be up on the battlefield. So it's 1 attack, hitting on 4, strength 8, -1, D3 damage. So strength 8 is good against other infantry because you're going to be dealing some damage to them. But the anti-vehicle 4+ is great because you're, again, like the infantry one, you're going to be, it doesn't matter the strength, you're wounding on a 4+. I love that weapon. If you're going to be taking hordes of these guys, having like 4 or 5 of these kind of around is great because you're going to be plinking a lot of like average 2 wounds against a lot of vehicles. So I like that. And then melee weapons. You have the Alpha combat weapon, which is the sergeant, like his like sword or whatever other weapon he can take. 2 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 5, -1, 1 damage. And then the regular guys without any weapons will be 1 attack, hitting on 4, strength 3, AP 0, 1 damage. Nothing really to write home about. So overall, I like this Qatari Vanguard. I hate the theme of a lot of the shooty armies are going down to 4+ to hit, except for Marines. So, I mean, Marines are going to... Points is going to define this edition. I can't wait to see what the points are and the overall data sheets are going to look like. Because we haven't seen a lot of... They've been showing us troops inside the 4+ shooty armies, and they haven't been showing us a lot of elites. Like I would love to see the Thunderkin data sheet in Votan, so I know, oh, this is the dedicated heavy shooty unit, so they hit on 3s. Like, that would be great. I'd love to see that. So, let's move on to another one. The big guy himself, Belisarius Cawl. Essentially the leader of the AdMech for Mars. So he has 6-inch move, T8, 2-up save, 10 wounds, beefy dude, 6-up leadership, and ejector control 3. Seems pretty good for what he does. So his abilities, Canticles of the Omnissiah. At the start of the battle round, select one of the abilities in the Canticles of the Omnissiah section to the left. Until the start of the next battle round, this model has this ability. So this is another one of those big guys, have 3 abilities, pick one every turn, do it. So, Invocation of Machine Vengeance. It's an aura. All these are auras. While friendly Adeptus Mechanicus units within 6 inches of this model, each time the model makes an attack, reroll a hit of 1. Super simple. Reroll hits of 1. Great on an army, especially when now they're hitting on 4s. So, I like it. Mantra of Discipline. It's another aura. While friendly Adeptus Mechanicus unit within 6 inches of this model, each time you make a battle shock or leadership test for that unit, you can reroll the test. Another one of those leadership mechanic ones. I have a feeling this will be very important when you're like, I'm about to take a ton of battle shock. Let's make sure that I survive this and hold all these objectives. It'll be super important in that turn, but otherwise you're not going to be using it very often. Shroud Psalm, it's an aura. While a friendly Adeptus Mechanicus within 6 inches of this model, the unit has the stealth ability. So stealth, I believe, I don't think they've shown it officially in one of the previews yet, but I'm assuming it's -1 to hit outside 12. That's my guess. totally good guess. So this is great when you're in the protector imperative, so that you're in your deployment zone, they're -1 AP at shooting you, they're -1 to hit you, and then you're also getting heavy, so you're standing still and getting a bunch of bonus shots, especially on your long range like vehicles. Seems great. I love that this is a thing you can do. You can make yourself guys harder to hit, or you can be more aggressive with the reroll ones to hit. Awesome abilities for Belisarius Call. I'm liking a lot of these leader abilities and the way you have a lot of flexibility with them and how good they are. I love it. So, Mechanicus Bodyguard. While this model is within 3 inches of one or more friendly Adeptus Mechanicus units, this model has a lone operative ability. So, this is a big deal for him because he can go out and do his own stuff, or guess what? When he's in front of other AdMech units, he's actually screened. He will be untargetable outside 12, I want to say. So, that is a big deal. I can't wait to see this guy and how hard he is to kill, because he won't. If he sits in the back and buffs all the machines that are shooting in the back, and then all your guys go forward, all your Vanguard units, that's a good role for him and seems very AdMech-y. So again, I like it. And then self-repair mechanisms. At the start of your command phase, this model repairs up to D3 lost wounds, and also he has a 4-up invulnerable save. Let's look at his weapons real quick. Nothing super crazy in here. So he has a Solar Atomizer, which is his only ranged weapon, which is Blast and Melted D3, which I find hilarious. So 18 inches, D3 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 14, -4 AP, 3 damage. This is not bad for when people are coming on your side of the board and you're popping a few Terminators in the face. Everything comes down to those 3-wound guys are going to have a real hard time against certain weapons in certain armies, and they're going to just get popped by things. So let's look at his melee weapons. He has the Arc Scourge, which is an extra attack thing he has. Devastating Wounds and Anti-Vehicle 4+. So this is like a vehicle cutter, essentially. 4 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 5, -1 damage. The strength 5 is kind of irrelevant because you're really using this to pop a few vehicles and pop a few extra wounds on them because you get the Anti-Vehicle 4+. Not great, but, you know, popping like 2 or 3 wounds on a vehicle seems fine. Calls Omniscient Axe, which is his main weapon. He gets 4 attacks hitting on 2, strength 8, -2 damage. Good anti-infantry protection attacks, so he doesn't get, so you can take out a couple guys with him. And then Mechatendril Hive is also extra attacks, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4, AP 1 damage. So that's your flail attacks to deal with anti-infantry. So overall, nothing crazy in combat. His shooting's all right. Like, he's got a few attacks, but really comes down to those buffs, and that's what he's going to be doing to help the army. So now it's time to look at some abilities. So Skitaran Ruststalkers have an ability called Optimize Gate. So they get to add 1 to advance and charge rolls made for this unit. However, there's a big theme in this army. When you're around your battle line troops, you get more bonuses. And for this one, is no different. While his units in 6 inches of one or more friendly Adeptus Mechanicus battle line units, add 2 to advance and charge rolls made for this unit instead. Big deal. Big, big deal. So remember when I said that the Skitari Vanguard will want to move up onto the objective and stand near other guys so that they can make the opponent's -1 objective controlled. And then this, so say like something like Ruststalkers are also in combat. They will take out a few guys, make it so they don't die on the crackback when they charge them, but also their objective control is 0. So it doesn't matter if you kill them all. You'll take a few casualties, but the objective will be yours. You just pull it out the rug from under them. I love the combos of working together and getting bonuses. That seems a very AdMech-y thing to do as they work together and they make themselves partnered up to do damage and do cool things. So let's look at the Eradication Beamer. Oh, I love this weapon. So it has 2 modes, it's Dispersed and Focused. So Dispersed is a 36-inch range gun, D6 attacks, hitting on 4s, strength 9, -2 damage. Seems pretty good. It's a long-range 2 damage gun. So strength 9 is not the best, but it's wounding most infantry on 2s or 3s, which is pretty nice. And -2 damage is a great anti-marine stat line. It's also blast and sustained hits D3. So if you get a couple hits on it, you can get some explosions. You can get more shots because of blast. Seems good. The focus profile is essentially the same thing, but you have to be closer because the other one's 36 inches, this one's 18 inches. So you got to be in half range. So it's kind of like rapid fire, but it has a better stat line when you're in half range. It's also blast and sustained hits D3, but it's 6 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 9, -3 damage. So it's still strength 9, but it's AP -3 and 3 damage this time. So you get the extra pip of AP and damage. Super fan. I like it. So when those things get a little too close to you, let's just go ahead and blow them away. Anything on that midfield objective, being 18 inches away from that midfield objective, seems great. So you could just blow that shit out of the water. So let's look at a couple stratagems. Now they showed off 2 stratagems this time, one for when you're on defense, one for you're on offense. So this one is Bulwark Imperative. So in your opponent's shooting phase, just after the enemy selected its targets, select one of your Sectari units that was selected to target that enemy unit's attacks. Until the end of turn, your model has a 4+ invulnerable saves. And you can only use it when you have the Protector Imperative is active. So you have to do it when you're on the defense. Seems great for an army of like 4+, 5+ armor saves. It'll really make you go a long way with defending your guys, and a big giant blob of Vanguard will all of a sudden be super tough to kill, especially at range. I love it. So this one is the Aggressor Imperative. That is the one you do when you in the offensive mode. So during your charge phase, you pick a Scutari unit that advances turn, and until the end of turn, they get advance and charge. And you can only use this stratagem when you're in the Conqueror Imperative, so the offensive one. So feels really good to advance and charge, especially with some of these very fast units that you have that are meant to go up and go into combat. And then you get the extra AP and shooting against them in their deployment zone. Like if you can flank out, get a bunch of shooting to pin them down, and then move in with your very fast units into the deployment zone and take over like their home objective, that is a very sneaky way to win some games. And then if you're also able to get, say, some Qatari Vanguard over there, so their objective control is 0 on the units taking a bunch of mortal wounds in the deployment zone over the game, like, seems really good. You're going to take some objectives from people, and I love that they're sneaky like that, where they're like, hey, by the way, this objective is mine. Sorry, you don't get to have it, but I'm just going to take this from you. Great way for this army to run, and I can't wait to see if this all works. That's the big thing. Is this all going to happen for the AdMech? I don't know. So thank you guys for coming out. I had a blast talking about AdMech as usual. I will be back tomorrow with another video on the Eldari, who have seen a decent amount of changes as well, and I can't wait to see how it goes. So thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me out and justify the time I take to make these videos, because it is no small feat, I'll tell you what. Have a good one, guys, and I'll catch you guys next time.